Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Exodus, Goliath, out March 20th on Napalm Records. This album has 10 tracks, 54 minutes in length, and this is the band's 12th full-length studio album. They are an iconic American thrash metal band. Now when it comes to the design of this record, I feel like this is an album that offers a very straightforward format. Side A, Side B, very old school from that perspective, and the two sides become easily defined by Goliath, the first single that the band has released. That song sits in the middle of both sides, definitely creating a clear divide between them. Now the divide exists, but sonically both sides are very consistent and very balanced. When you have an album that's overall very consistent and balanced and you add to that 54 minutes in length, it starts to become a lot more difficult to see the nuances. In other words, it becomes more difficult to see the forest from the trees the deeper you go into the track listing, into the overall experience of the album. This is not to say that every single song sounds or feels the same, because I actually feel like this album is quite dynamic and it has a lot of nuances to it, and it's versatile at its heart. But when you're going down the line and when you have a sound, an overall sound that really blankets the record regardless of where the influences take you, that ability to discern the definition of each and every single song becomes a lot harder. Once you get into the overall sound of this album, at heart you have a thrash metal album, but the influences of the diverse song, or the many songwriters I should say, that this album has definitely comes all the way up to the surface. This is an album that you could tell is not written by one person. The influences are there and really help defining some of the tracks on this record more than others. A track like Goliath, for example, really stands out, being a little bit more of a sludgy, doomier sounding song. But even a track like Promise You This, it's a song that has almost a hard rock, heavy blues influence to it. So these songs are not your prototypical songs that you would find on a thrash metal record, and more so on an Exodus record. They were able to create a line between them because the overall sonic presence or sonic fingerprint of the record is very similar on a track-by-track basis. What changes is the composition and the style and the approach and how the songs come across. But the meat and potatoes of the tracks, the way the sound comes across, that is consistent all the way throughout. So it's an album that has an interesting approach as far as the production is concerned, especially when you look at two different key aspects of it. One, the overall bass sound on this album. I thought the bass sound really popped on the record. And while I don't mind hearing bass or having the bass be as predominant as it is on any album, on this record, in certain songs, it felt a little bit too much. It felt like it became almost intrusive into what the overall experience of the track was all about. Your ears connect more with the bass sound at times than with anything else on the record. So you want the bass to be there, and in some cases it's just the right amount. But whenever the bass comes a little bit more over the event horizon, no pun intended, you definitely start to feel like there is a distortion of sound. It becomes a little bit more dissonant, and that takes away from the overall quality, sonically, from the overall quality of the track. It's not the only issue in my perspective. I also felt like the guitar sound at times was a little bit raw. And what I mean by that is that it felt almost more like a live recording in certain songs in certain moments than a studio recording. The guitars had that same sort of dissonance that you find in the bass being so predominant. The guitars also had quite a bit of it, specifically on the outer edges of the guitar sound. It really vibrates the outer edges of the guitar sound. It doesn't have this clean and crisp perspective. It is there in certain tracks, definitely in the guitar solos and in a lot of the leads, but overall the guitar sound really feels raw and unpolished throughout the entire album. When you add that protruding bass sound to that guitar experience, you have a very rugged sound experience throughout the entire album. It adds that live experience to the record, but not necessarily a live experience that makes the songs more manageable or makes the songs easier to digest. Specifically tracks that are not necessarily your prototypical thrash metal songs. those songs needed a little bit of a different production style behind them in order for them to be a little bit more palpable. Heavier thrash metal style tracks, you can live with that ruggedness because that's part and parcel with the genre. You almost want that more raw and live sound experience for those specific tracks. Because of the versatility of the record, you would want a more versatile production attached to it, and that's not exactly what I've discovered listening to this album. The only element within the soundscape of this record that I felt was very consistent was the drum sound. And the drum sound was excellent regardless of the style of the song, regardless of where the track is trying to take you. The overall drum presence on this record is really top notch. Now once you get into the vocals, this is the first album with Rob Dukes back in the picture, and I thought he sounded really good on this album. He sounds better in songs that are not necessarily as thrash driven, songs that have more of a almost like hard rock bluesy style, like Promise You This is a song that he can really deliver a strong vocal performance. On a song like Goliath, I thought his vocal style does not fit as well into a track like that. But then also tracks that have a little bit more of a driven guitar sound, his vocals felt super aggressive on tracks like that. So it was an interesting album vocally for me because I really like his vocal style and I really like his vocal approach. I just don't feel like they wrote every single song thinking of what style of vocalist they had in hand. There are certain songs where his vocals fit like a glove, and then there are certain songs where you feel like the vocals are a little bit out of touch with the reality of the sound. A little bit of a microcosms of what the entire album felt to me. A little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde style record where you could see the Exodus DNA on the album. You can see certain elements that are very balanced throughout the record, but then you can also discover the dissonance that exists within the album and the disparity that exists within the album, and it makes the overall experience feel a little bit more difficult because it almost allows the listener to tune certain elements off the deeper you dive into that experience, like I said, becoming a lot harder to see the forest from the trees. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I picked the opening track, 3111. This is a great opening song because it's such a thrash metal track. The bass pops on this track, but I honestly don't mind on a song like this. Any track that has a drive to it, that has heaviness to it, that really pushes almost a menacing vibe. This song starts off with almost a built-in intro that takes you into a minute and a half into the song before everything really develops. And when everything really develops, you feel like the track has a sense of purpose and a sense of direction. On a track that is heavy and driven, very thrash metal based like this one is, the vocals fit in perfectly. The bass popping does not distort the track whatsoever. And then having a main riff that's very contagious, very memorable, just adds to the overall vibe of the track and makes this an immediate standout track right from the get-go. And that's exactly what you want to open a record with. So I think this is not only a great song, it's a great song to open the album. Then you have a track like Promise You This. I picked this song because it's an interesting one for me. It feels like a hard rock, bluesy style track with some, some slower elements to it, some definitely doomier elements to it. It just has a different vibe in terms of how the sound comes across. Almost like a little bit of a stoner vibe in terms of the way the song feels and the way the song sounds, but it still feels like an Exodus track. And I thought that's the part that was really interesting to me, is that they created a song that is not your necessarily prototypical Exodus style track, still sounds like Exodus. Rob Duke sounded really good on this song. I felt like he had a great presence in the track, and he navigates the track really well. I really like his performance on this song because it also enhances the sonics choices that they made for this track. And the track has an amazing solo section. Actually, as far as solos are concerned, if there's one element of the guitar sound overall that's outstanding, that's consistently outstanding throughout the entire record, it's definitely the solos. The solos on this album are all worth paying attention to. They're all worth their weight in gold, if you will. So this track is no different. It has a great solo section, but I like the style. I like the change, that more hard rock bluesy stoner style vibe that this song has works really well with the vocalist and with the sound that they created for it. And then you have a track like Beyond the Event Horizon. This is your more prototypical thrash metal Exodus song, a very heavy guitar driven track, a track where the guitars are the main condiment or the spinal cord of the entire song. The vocals match that aggression and intensity that the track has musically really well, and it's also another song that has an incredible solo section. I think this one on this record is the best on the album. This track right here, Beyond the Event Horizon, has without a shadow of a doubt the best solo section that you're going to find on the entire Goliath album by Exodus. It's just phenomenal, great guitar work, almost pushing a little bit of a prog influence as far as the solo section is concerned. Having the two solos, the two guitarists soloing back and forth, adds an incredible dynamic to the track. It's just a great guitar sounding song, great execution, great track all around, feeling really complete, and also alternating more driven moments with slower moments, which makes the track feel like it has more ebbs and flows, more ups and downs, making the track feel even more fluid and more dynamic, but never losing that Exodus DNA in it. So it's a great, interesting song all around. This is it, Exodus with Goliath, once again out March 20th on Napalm Records. Hit me up in the comment section, let me know your thoughts on the singles. Dying to hear what you gotta say, and I'll see you all at the next one. Take care, guys.